Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hendrik Makaneta once again. And of course, I'm just going to take you through the revision lesson as we prepare ourselves for the assessments that are coming in the next few days. And today, I want us to look at the revision, which will be based on factorization. And thank you very much indeed for taking the time and the trouble to be part of this lesson. As always, we appreciate your presence. We are now going to define the factorization as the inverse of expanding on expression through multiplication. So when you take out factors, it will be the inverse of expanding. For instance, if you are given 24 as a number and you want to factorize that number, you will know that the factors of 24, amongst others, are 3 and 8. So if you multiply 3 by 8, you can get 24. But equally, if you multiply 2 by 12, that will also give you 24. You can also multiply 6 by 4, and that will also give you 24. So you can tell that there are different factors in a number, and the product of those numbers the product of those factors rather can take you back to the number. In this case, the number is 24. So those are the key elements of doing factorization. So when you factorize, you take out a number or two from a number, and then when you multiply them back, you should be able to find the same number. Now, the practical example, once again, for an expression, we have example 2, which we have now characterized as 8x minus 4. So if you have 8x minus 4, you know that this is a binomial, and remember that a binomial has got two terms. So as long as you have two terms here, then you can use the factors just to make sure that you are able to factorize. Now, the factorization in this case, all that we need to do is to find the highest common factor. In our case, the highest common factor is 4, because 4 can go into, if you take out 4 there as a highest common factor, you know that the expression will be 4 into 2x minus 1, because once you take out 4, in order to take the expression back to its original form, you'll have to multiply the same 4 by 2x and then minus 1. Remember, if you take out 4 here in 8x, you'll be left with 2x, because 2x times 4 gives you 8x. And then in term 2, you'll just be left with 1, because 1 times 4 is 4. Then we know that at this point, we have now factorized the expression, and then the factorized expression is 4 open bracket 2x minus 1. And this is an example on its own. We can be able to use that just to find any factorized expression. So we are now going to carry on just to demonstrate again with the next example, or rather the different, yes, is the next example. But this example has got about three different expressions. And of course, the first one is 5a plus 10b, and the second one is 6x to the power 4 minus 4x squared. The third one is 15y to the power of 3 minus 12y squared plus 3y. So what we need to do here is to factorize. So I'm not going to waste time, but to zoom directly into the first one, where you are factorizing 5a plus 10b. You should be able to see even by inspection that a and b are two different variables. So there is nothing common when it comes to a and b. But if you look at those coefficients, 5 and 10, definitely there is something common there. We know that 10 can be expressed as 2 times 5. So it means that 5 is a common factor there, or the highest common factor between 5 and 10. The highest common factor there would be 5. Because 5 can go into 5 without the remainder. The same 5 can also go into 10 without a remainder. Now, when you take 5 as a common factor, what will be the remainder? I'm just interested in picking up your thoughts. What will be the remainder there if you take out 5? Remember, we are factorizing. And your remainder must be in such a way that if you multiply everything once again by 5, you will be able to get back to the original answer. So in other words, 5a plus 10b will be equal to 5 and then open bracket, and then you can now have the remainder there. So it will be 5 open bracket and then a plus 2b. So that is what it will be. As you can see here, we have just said that the highest common factor is 5. Therefore, 5a plus 10b is equal to 5 into a plus 2b. So that's how we define or characterize the factorized expression. The factorized expression is characterized as such, and then that will be 5 open bracket a plus 2b. The reason being we've taken out 5 as the common factor, and not just the common factor, but the highest common factor. Right, and then that is the first one. That is 3a. That's one of the examples there. Yes, Sakile, I see that you have already solved that, and you said the answer will be 5 into 1a plus 2b. So Sakile, just to demonstrate or just to explain something to you, we don't always have to write the 1. You can leave it as it is. We do not write it. When the coefficient is 1, you don't write the coefficient as 1. We know it's there all the time, but you just don't write it. Not that it's a big problem if you have written it, but you will see as we proceed in algebra especially, that we don't have to put 1a. We know if it's 1a, then you just put a, or 1b, or 1x, you just put x. All right? Right, and then Natalie also did B already, and then we'll just move to CB. Natalie says, excuse me, Natalie says the highest common factor in B is 2. Okay, Natalie, I see that. And then you have said 2 open bracket and then 3x to the power 4 minus 2x squared. Right, Natalie, I fully agree with you when it comes to the coefficients 6 and 4. The highest common factor there is 2. I fully agree with you. But I want you to look at x to the power of 4 together with x squared. Just tell me there, between the two, do you think there's perhaps a common factor there? X to the power 4 and x squared? If you can just check that. Yes, there is. Thank you very much. You agree that there is. Even Sakile agrees. So now if you agree with me, can you also take out the common factor which happens to be a variable in the form of x? What will be that common factor? So always make sure that when you work with such binomials, you don't just take, you don't just take the 2 only. I see Sakile found the common factor as 2. And I agree with you, Sakile and Rovu, the same as Natalie. You also found the highest common factor to be 2. But I've just asked the question, is that the only one? Is that the only common factor there? What about the variables? What about x squared? Is that not a common factor? Right, Lisedi just wants me to re-explain. I'm just not sure. Where do you want me to start, Lisedi? Where can I start, Lisedi? I see on the group chat there. Yes, Sakile also says it is x squared is it's a common factor. So, but Lisedi has just made a request that she couldn't understand. May you please explain again? Right, Lisedi, I'm just going to explain. Maybe let me just go to the previous example because that one is the most basic one. We are factorizing Lisedi today. And then in doing so, all that we need to do is to find the highest common factor. In our case, we are factorizing 8x minus 4. And we say that the highest common factor is 4. And so if you take out 4 as the highest common factor, then you'll be left with 2x minus 1. Then you close your bracket. The reason being, if you take out 4 there as the highest common factor, in the first term you'll be left with 2x. Why 2x? Because if you multiply 4 by 2x, what do you get? You get 8x. The second term, it will be 1, because if you multiply 4 by 1, you get 4. So basically, this is how I want to characterize our expression by factorizing. So the factorized expression, the factorized expression in this case will be 4 open bracket 2x minus 1. And this is the factorized expression. I hope that it makes sense. Now, we also have this example 3 there, where we were supposed to factorize the following. In A, we have got 5a plus 10b. How would you factorize 5a and b? So the first step is to check whether there is a highest common factor. And we have agreed that indeed there is a highest common factor in this case, which is 5. A and B are two distinct symbols, so none of them is a common factor to the other, but they are coefficients. The coefficient of A is 5 and the coefficient of B is 10. So these coefficients have something in common. 5 and 10 has something in common in a sense that 5 can go into 5 without a remainder, but equally 5 can go into 10 without a remainder. So you can tell that the common factor there is 5. So if you take out 5, then you'll be left with A plus B. I think that at this point, it should be clear that the highest common factor of 5, once you take it out, you'll be left with A plus 2B, by the way. Why 2B? Because if you're going to multiply out by 5, the first term will be, it will be 5 times A, which is 5, plus 5 times 2B, which is 10B. So it will take you back to the original form. Because if you multiply 5 times A plus 2B, 5 times A is 5A, and then 5 times 2B is 10B. So that is the original expression. Now, to calculate, or to rather factorize 6x to the power 4 minus 4x squared, I see Natalie has attempted to solve that, and we said that 2 is the common factor, but not the only one. Even x squared becomes a factor there, because once you take out this 2 as the highest common factor between the two terms, you'll be able to see that we have already identified 2 as Natalie said, and then x squared is also one of the common factors. So this means that if you write 6x squared minus 4x squared, in fact, that is 6 x to the power 4 minus 4x squared. You simply take out 2x squared, and then you'll be left with 3x squared minus 2. If you want to test whether your answer is correct, you can just simplify, and then you multiply everything inside the bracket by 2x squared. So if you multiply everything in the bracket by 2x squared, then you know that 2 times 3 is 6. X squared times x to the power 4 gives you x to the power of 4. X squared times x squared gives you x to the power of 4. Then 2x squared times minus 2, this will give you negative 4x squared. All right. Right, and then the C there, it's 15y cubed minus 12y squared plus 3y. Now, at this point, what you need to do, realize or check that you've got 3y as the common factor. So if you take out 3y as a common factor, then you'll be left with 15y squared minus 4y plus 1. In such a way that if you take the expression back to its original form, you simply have to multiply the bracket by 3y. So you can see that if you multiply 3y by 5y squared, you get 15y squared. And then, of course, if you multiply the same 3y by negative 4y, your answer will be negative 12y squared. All right. And then the last one, if you multiply 3y by 1, obviously any number multiplied by 1 is that number. It remains the same. So if you multiply 3y by 1, you get 3y. And then that brings us to the end of example 3 as we know it. Now, I'm just gonna give you the copy and complete table, which consists of about 6 activities. Thank you very much indeed, Natalie, for participating in the group chat. So now I want you to take a pen and a paper just to complete the following expressions. We have 4m minus 8, and this is equal to 4 and then open bracket. This simply means you are factorizing. And then we also have 5ab plus 2a is equal to a into, and then 6x squared minus 3x, then 8a squared minus, in fact, 8a squared plus 12a, and then this is equal to 4a into, and the last one, but not least, 20x cubed minus 15x to the power 5. Can we calculate this? Let us rather calculate. Remember, I'm giving you this revision activities mainly because we are going to have an assessment somewhere next week. So by the time we come to the following week, around the 13th of July, you will definitely get some assignments, and they will be based on the work that we have done up to so far. I hope that you are doing that. Natalie says the highest common factor is C, it's 3. Okay, you started with C, some, and then I see 3, 5 to the power of 3. Which one is it? All right, highest common factor of 3. Which one are you referring to? Where the highest common factor is 3? Or unless you're talking about C. Yeah, if it's C, then I agree with you. If it's C, yes, it's C. Now I see. You have written that C, the highest common factor is just 3. Just 3, and then of course in 4, again we have the highest common factor there. So you don't have to just rely on any other thing except to calculate and know your work. You just have to know your work, and knowing your work will greatly help you to solve these problems involving factorization. I see that Natalie is the only one up to so far who has interacted with this problem. I don't know if I should just go into the participants and just ask anybody there. Amelang, I see you are here, in Tlantla, you are here, and Pumi as well, Natalie. Right, let's carry on. Let's carry on. And then 12m plus 9m squared, this is equal to, and there must be something there. The 3 dots means that you can put something, and then open bracket 4 plus 3m. Can we carry on with this activity? Can we carry on with this activity? Right, the first one, you've got 4m minus 8, and then we know that if you take out 4 as the common factor, then you'll be left with m minus 2. All right, so the first answer for activity, this activity, and then going to A will be 4 open bracket m minus 2. That will be your answer. And how do you find it? You have been shown already that 4 is the common factor. You may even find that it is the highest common factor. Right, and then B, 5AB plus 2A. You can see A is the common factor into, so it will be 5B plus 2. 5B plus 2. Right, and then 6x squared minus 3x. That is another one, which is equal to 3x. Right, 6x squared minus 3x is equal to 3x. So what you need to do here is just to transpose the other 3x from the left-hand side to from the right-hand side, in fact, to the left-hand side. And then thereafter, you can solve it. You can solve it yourself. And then once you bring the 3x from the left-hand side to the, or from the right-hand side rather, in actual fact, 6x squared is will be 2x for the first one there. Remember that the common factor is 3x, and then you'll be left with 2x in the first term. The second term is 1 there, because you have taken the whole 3x. So you'll have 3x into 2x minus 1. And then 8a squared plus 12a is equal to 4. You can also tell there that 4a is the common factor. If you take out 4a, in the first instance, you'll be left with 2a, and then the other one you'll be left with just 3. And then 12m plus 9m squared again. This is what you do in as far as this problem is concerned. You will take out the common factor. You can see we gave you the remainder there. So the remainder is 4 plus 3m. So it means you'll have 3m as the common factor, because 3m times 4 is 12m. 3m times 3m is 9m squared. The last one, F, before we can carry on, it's as follows. We've got 20x cubed minus 15x to the power 4. You can see you may get something like this in the exam or in the test, where you've got 4 minus 3x squared, and then you need to tell us what is the common factor there. Excuse me, in other words, what is that number or expression? If you multiply that by 4, you get 20x cubed. Obviously, if you multiply 4 by 5, you get 20, and then you also still have the x cubed. So I think it will be 5x cubed. That will be outside, because if you multiply it by 20, by 5 rather, you get 20x cubed. Right, that was the end of the next activity, the previous activity. Now I want you to expand the following. Just expand the following, and then you need to multiply the bracket by the term that is outside the bracket, 6x minus 2x plus 1. Can we subtract this? Can we quickly subtract this? Or can we just expand if we can? Right, can we carry on? We have the first one there, 6x, and then we can just multiply that by 2x. Remember, if you multiply 6 by 2, what do you get? You get 12. So 6 times 2 is 12, and then x times x is x squared. So the first term, you'll have 12x squared, and then 6x times 1, 6x. So it means that the answer for this expansion will be 12x squared plus 6x. Because here we are expanding. There's a difference between when you expand and factorize. Right. And then can we factorize this expression now? I've just expanded. Now I expect you to factorize on your own. Can we factorize this expression, please? You can just write the answer on the group chat, or if you want, you can raise your hand. Let's factorize. We've got 12x squared plus 6x. I see Sakile, I've noted your first one, the 4m minus 8, which is equal to 4 into 1m minus 2. I hope that I'm not fast. I hope I'm not fast. If I am fast, please feel free to stop me at any time. If I've been fast, please feel free to stop me. All right. Let's factorize. Right, I see that Natalie has factorized there. She took 6x as a common factor. She says that the highest common factor is 6. Yes, I agree with you, but don't forget the x as well. But I see that in the next step, you wrote the x. So you have 6x, open bracket, and then 2x plus, or it should be 2x plus 1. But I see you wrote 2x squared plus x. Because if you multiply 2x by x squared, then it will be 12x cubed. Make note of that. But it should be 6x times 2x, so that it can be 12x squared. That's the first step there. And then the next one, of course, is to factorize the following. Can we factorize here? Let me give you a hint. In order to factorize this expression, please expand it first. In other words, multiply the 5y squared with everything inside the bracket. And thereafter, you can factorize. Multiply out the bracket and thereafter factorize. Uh, 5y squared into 4y squared minus 3y. Can we factorize this? But before we do that, let's expand it. Thank you, Natalie, for doing the previous one. Can we just expand this expression and thereafter factorize? Right, I hope that today's work is not that difficult. As you know, it is part of the revision, some things that we have already done. You may need to go back and reflect just to reinforce some of these concepts which have already been explained in the past for the sake of your activities, and then it will be easier for you to answer the different activities next week. So up to so far, what we need to do, we just need to multiply 5y to the power 2 by everything inside the bracket. And then 5 times 4 is 20. Then y to the power 2 times y to the power 2. That will be y to the power 4. So it means the first term there will be 20y to the power of 4. And then minus 5 times 3 is 15. Y squared times y is y to the power 3. So you'll have 15y to the power of 3. Now you can factorize it properly. If you factorize it properly, obviously the last factor there will be added to 5y squared, which will make it 5y squared. 5y cubed. So you'll have 5y cubed into 4y minus 3. And that is how it goes. Right? This next one here, we are supposed to factorize. Pardon the word of expand. Can we factorize? Let's take out the factors. Let us take those factors. Silly said, it says the common factor is 5. The highest common factor is 5. Okay, thank you, Lucidi. What about the variables? Please check the variables as well. We often look at the numbers and forget the variables. You have the correct answer. The correct answer is 5, Lucidi. You take out 5 as the common factor, but I can also add that we need to take out y cubed as a common factor there. So meaning that your answer will be 5y cubed into, right, it will be 5y cubed and then into 4y minus 1. So it will be 5y cubed into 4y minus 1. That will be how we expand our expression. Now I'm giving you these particular activities to factorize. You will have enough time just to answer. If you have a pen and a paper, please, let's go ahead and factorize the following expressions, and then we can share our notes. Can we now factorize? You each have a chance. Right, let's factorize. Once again, you can see 6a minus 6 is very simple. All that you ask yourself is, what are the factors there? What is the factor between 6a minus 6? We have got 6a minus 6. So 6 is the common factor there, and then you'll have 6, open bracket, a minus 1. That will be your common factor. And then you can do the same with the second one there, 2m squared minus 4mp. And then you look at the common factor. 2 obviously is a common factor when it comes to numbers. And then m is also a common factor when it comes to variables. So 2m will be the common factor. And then we'll be left with m in the first term minus 2p. So it will be m minus 2p. And then this is followed by 9x to the power 4 plus 6x squared. Yes, 9x to the power 4 plus 6x squared. Again, you can look at the common factors, especially the highest. So the highest common factor for me is 3x squared. So if you have got 3x squared, that will be your highest common factor. And if you take out 3x squared in the first instance, then you'll be left with 3x to the power of 2. Yes, so it will be 3x squared, because 3x squared times 3x squared gives you 9x to the power 4. And in the second term, you'll be left with 2. Remember that 2 times 3x squared gives you 6x squared. Now the last one, the very last one, of course, I see, Natalie, you have shown the 6a there. The last one, 2x cubed minus 4x squared plus 6. Again, this is an expression where you simply need to take out the common factor. Between 2, let's start with numbers. Between 2, 4, and 6, which one is the highest common factor? The highest will be 2, and then x cubed minus x squared plus 6x. Right, as you factorize this, bear in mind the importance of taking out the common factor. So one of the common factors that we will take is 2, which will be followed by x, because x exists everywhere. So in other words, 2x is the common factor here, and then you just multiply by x to get 2 to the power 2x cubed. So 2x is the common factor in the last one. You'll be left with x minus 2x and then plus 3. So it will be x. If you take 2x there, you'll be left with x squared, rather, and then minus 2x and then plus 6. So if you take out 2x as a common factor in the last one, you'll be left with x and then minus 2x squared and then plus 3. That will be the last one. So thank you very much indeed, Natalie. I see that you're still active on the group chat. Once again, this lesson was brought to you by the lockdown, not the lockdown, but the STEM Digital School in partnership with the Sasol Foundation. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them to our email address, which is stemdigitalschool@africateamgeeks.co.za. So thank you very much indeed.